Before going on, I'd like to point out a few things. Firstly, as you see here, as you enter into the area which holds the property, to the left is where you see what we refer to as the land. It is property 13.9 acres, which is owned by the Ramapough Mountain Indians. It is the land that Two Clouds himself secured for them when he first came up there in 2016, because they were about to lose it to the people that are to the right, where you see here, which is the Polo Club. And Two Clouds wrote documentation and such and made it where it was not taken from them, and it is the sole reason why they have it today. But as you go into the property, you have to cross this narrow bridge, and as you see to the left, there are 2 cameras and there's signage letting everyone know that they are being surveilled. These are just close-ups of the signs so you can read them for yourselves and also understand that however Two Clouds ended up on the land, it would have been recorded, without a doubt. This is the bridge from the opposite direction. Notice that there are 2 additional cameras to the right, bringing the total to 4. Understand that this is a very, very busy suburban area. Not only is the Polo Club now to the left, and the land, which is part of the Ramapough Mountain State Park system, now to the right, but there are dozens and dozens of residences all around this area. There are constantly cars going by, or people walking their dogs or jogging, or just visitors to the park. Those cameras would have picked up every one of them, including Two Clouds, whether he had come into the land of his own volition that fateful day, or, as we believe, was tucked away in someone's vehicle being brought into the land. Please also pay attention to how wide open the land itself is where he was found dead. So, there's the menacing. He would have, his car was right, let's see, right over there is where the parking was, I think. So they would have had to bring him all the way here. Okay? Now, let's say they didn't carry him that far because he was 191 pounds, dead weight. So they probably, most likely, and there's reasons why I'm saying that too. I will divulge that information later on. But most likely, they drove his car over here and then placed him over on the shoreline to try to hide him. In July, it's very bushy, and I have photos of that because I took video and everything the day that he was found. So you can see how bushy it is over there and everything. I believe they put him over there first trying to hide him, and then they came back out deciding that they needed to actually stage the area, in which time they put him in the water and turned over the canoe. And if you've seen my video speaking with the manufacturer, the canoe manufacturer, you know that he said himself it wouldn't have flipped over. They make that canoe specifically for whitewater rafting and to be able to hit rocks and such and not flip over. So yeah. Even with the leaves, this is very, very open. Very open. As you see, there are cameras showing any and everybody coming in and going out. I find it very interesting that none of the chiefs nor council have asked to have any of that footage seen, especially when the head chief will go out of his way to try to prove that the Mawa Police Department are racist towards the Ramapough people, and he is as quiet as a mouse.
Thank you for calling Conference. This is Ruben. How can I help you?
Hi, Ruben. I have a question. So I don't know the serial number. I don't know where to find the serial number on the boat. But I wanted to know. So we have a 16-foot Mad River canoe, and I think I don't know if it's fiberglass or something like that. But I wanted to know, is it possible for them to flip over and capsize on like calm water?
I don't understand the question. It broke up a little bit. If it's possible, what? Sorry?
Is it possible for a 16-foot Mad River canoe to flip over? Like if somebody falls out of it, like will it flip over itself if I fall out of it?
No, actually no. You should stay like normally in the water.
Okay. I was wondering.
You shouldn't flip over.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. Nearly a year and a half ago, a very well-meaning person sent us this footage. They just so happened to be on the land a day or so before Two Clouds' lifeless, horribly decomposed body was found. His canoe is very clearly flipped over, which according to its manufacturer would not have happened from him accidentally falling out of it, drunk or otherwise. One of the very first accounts that began circulating that very day was that Two Clouds was found dead on the shoreline. Someone even told that to a journalist. But as you see, there is no body. Also, there was no odor like the one that alerted and led on-duty electric workers to him. As the camera spans, you can get a much better picture of just how wide open this property is. There is zero chance that what was done to Two Clouds happened in the broad daylight of a clear morning on the July 4th weekend, no less. We believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that Two Clouds was attacked elsewhere, then transported here to the land under the cover of night. The scene was staged so that no one would ask questions. But nothing but questions are being raised. A handful of the questions we have are as follows. For more detailed questions, please watch the video Silence on the Land and read its companion article, both on our blog. The URL is below. We will begin on the land. At least one of the people who in the very beginning accounted for Two Clouds being on the shoreline is a close relative of the person that we and many others who were at the funeral and ceremony right after believe is the primary murderer, who in our blog articles is referred to as S1. This relative also claimed at the time that Two was missing an eye and ear, and also detailed other information about the body that autopsy photos confirm. Two was found face down in the water. So we want to know how this relative could have possibly known any of the information that he divulged without having seen Two Clouds before he entered the water. I have reached out to this relative myself, and he outright lied multiple times, coming up with at least 4 different stories that I know of. The state trooper who was on the scene stated there was no evidence of an accident, and the medical examiner who performed the autopsy stated the same, including that there was also no evidence of suicide nor heart attack or other medical emergency. All claims that the culprits and plain ignorant people who want to pretend they are in the know have been perpetrating from day one. Also, as already shown, the canoe manufacturer confirmed it would not have capsized even if Two Clouds had fallen out of it. Yet it was absolutely capsized. Since it was not Two Clouds who caused the canoe to flip, we want to know who did cause it to flip and why. Furthermore, we want to know that since there was no accident of any sort, why was Two Clouds dead in the water at all? His canoe is 16 feet long and very heavy. There must have taken multiple people to not only turn the boat over, but to move Two Clouds' dead body from place to place. Many people still maintain, without any evidence or logic, that Two Clouds died by accident. We want to know if they were there to witness this. Did they see him fall down drunk, even though he was on his way to pick up his son for a date? Or did they witness him having a heart attack and falling to his death, drowning in the water? If so, why didn't they help? Why did they not call an ambulance or police? Why did they leave him there to rot? Also, if they were there, where are his shoes, his jewelry, his knife that he always kept on his hip? They would have certainly shown up by now if no one else was involved. If he was wearing no shoes in the boat, why was there no mud on his socks? There was always mud on the floor of the canoe, and that day was no different. Why did no one help? If you know what happened, if you know better than the police who were there, the medical examiners who assessed him, outside and in, if you know more than me, then answer those questions. Why did you not help? And if you were not there, why do you insist that he died in the way that you insist he did? Two Clouds was in touch with several friends via his cell phone that last morning of his life, so there is digital proof of what time he stopped responding to return texts and calls. He also did not pick up his son, as he was excited to do, nor did he reach out to the mother of his son to let her know he was no longer coming, even though he had been in constant contact with her the entire morning pertaining to meeting up to get his son. As already pointed out, there would have been no way for his attackers to assault him in broad daylight, on the wide open property with multiple cameras watching, unless they were yearning to get caught. Also, Two Clouds was a proficient fighter, having studied various forms of martial arts, boxing, and kickboxing for decades. His kicks were especially powerful, and he was stocky at 191 pounds. There had been several instances in the past where he successfully warded off several assailants at a time, walking away with hardly a scratch. That morning, he would have been literally fighting for his life. It would have been chaotic. He was also a hunter, a tracker. So it would have been extremely difficult for a mere stranger to simply sneak up on him and subdue him. We want to know who was it that was able to get close enough to him and how. But more importantly, where did the attack take place? It seems most reasonable to us that it would have had to be somewhere closed in, secluded, where no one could see, hear, or help. Somewhere he would have felt safe to let down his guard, maybe freshen up a bit after all the driving he did to and from Massachusetts that weekend, then maybe take a nap, and somewhere that the murderers themselves would feel safe to attack and also to keep him for hours until they could transport his body elsewhere to stage a scenario. Now, for who we believe to be two of the main suspiciously active people, S1, who we believe to be the primary murderer, and the head chief. Within a few short hours after Two Clouds was found, and long before any medical assessment had been done, let alone reported, they both were offering unprovoked, stern allegations about what happened to cause Two Clouds' death. After Two Clouds' body was found, several hours had gone by before we even knew that he was dead. The chief, nor anyone from the tribal office, all who had my number directly as being Two Clouds' emergency contact, bothered to call and inform me that my son was gone. Nor did the police. As I was driving down, my best friend, who everyone knew to be Two Clouds' uncle, called the head chief and asked him directly what happened that our child was dead. According to my friend, the chief, without any assessment having been done, said that Two was drunk and fell off the canoe and drowned. He further said, without being asked, that no one there on the mountain of the tribe would do so much as throw a rock at Two Clouds. My friend found that very interesting because he didn't feel that the conversation even warrants such a statement. So we want to know why he would immediately think, firstly, that Two Clouds have fallen out the boat, but especially that he had fallen out drunk. That in itself was a very significant detail. Also, we want to know, did he witness Two Clouds falling out drunk? According to him, he had been stuck in the house for days with COVID. So, how could he have known anything? Did someone tell him that they witnessed it happening? If it was just an opinion, what would make him state such a thing to Two's family, who were obviously in shock? Why not allow the medical examiner handle that if it was actually so, after an assessment had been done? Also, we want to know what made him state that no one there would have harmed Two Clouds without any accusations having been made that someone would have. A few hours later, after constantly trying to reach S1, who was one of three people who were always around Two Clouds, he finally called me back and commenced to almost frantically, over and over again, try to convince me that Two Clouds had had a heart attack and fallen out of his boat and had drowned. Each time I said that no, my son didn't have a heart problem, he would say to me, "No, he had a heart attack. He had a heart attack. Please, please tell me he had a heart attack. He had a heart attack." It was the only time that to me he showed any signs of being upset. He never expressed sorrow for Two Clouds. He never seemed shocked or in disbelief, in my opinion. He just kept talking in circles and seemed, at the time, to focus on things that made no sense considering the situation that was at hand. Over and over he asked, "What did he look like? What did he look like? Did he say what he looked like?" Or if I was going to get an autopsy. That was something else that was very important to him. But what really stuck out to me is just going on and on and on about a body pillow that he just had to bring to Two Clouds that very night because he claimed he didn't want to be uncomfortable sleeping in his car. He also offered of his own accord that he always had Two's location on his own phone in case something ever happened where help was needed, but that he couldn't find Two's location for 4 whole days. We want to know why he was so sure that Two Clouds had accidentally fallen from his canoe from a heart attack and drowned, even as I was constantly countering that Two Clouds had no heart condition, which, incidentally, was later confirmed by the medical examiner. We want to know why was it so incredibly concerning how he looked when he was found? Was S1 expecting something in particular, or was he nervous about something in particular? Why did he not ask a single question about Two's well-being, or the entire time offer any other suggestions, especially since he had just gone to Massachusetts with Two that past weekend, which was the weekend of his death, to get help against the man they all seemed to believe is dangerous, and who so many others thought had been involved. Even when I repeatedly stated outright that I believed my son was murdered and that it could only have been done by multiple people who were close to him and could get to him, S1 never, ever once defended himself or, again, offered any possible culprits. Not one. All he would do is keep trying to convince me that it was a heart attack. We also want to know why, of all nights, he just had to get Two Clouds a pillow to sleep on. Everyone who knows Two Clouds or who follows his social media accounts knows that he was a rough and rugged nature man who often slept in his tent in the woods, even in the dead of winter, or on large boulders to help his back, and most often in his car without a pillow. It was his way for years. On top of that, S1 had been around Two Clouds for months, yet never thought to bring him a pillow before, not until that night. We want to know, was he trying to make an excuse in case the cameras caught him entering and leaving during a suspicious time? And what about him tracking Two Clouds' location at all times until he lost him for 4 days? Was that not an indication that something could have been wrong? Especially since they had just returned from pursuing a dangerous, threatening man. Why did he not ask for help in finding him, alert the tribal office so that his family could be notified, or report a missing Indigenous person with the police? We are curious about what type of help he anticipated giving Two Clouds should anything ever happen. That's why he said that he was tracking him at all times. We also want to point out that over the next several months, S1 is said to have come up with other causes for Two's death when talking to others: suicide, murder by the head chief, and even being a victim of some sort of Mohawk Indian voodoo that caused him to have a heart attack, hit his head on a boat, get knocked out, fall in the water, and drown. But never death by the threatening, dangerous man who too had just returned back from standing up to less than 24 hours before. Standing up to for the Ramapough people. We find that very, very interesting, and we would like to know why he doesn't find that guy to be a viable suspect as so many other people did. Moving along, the day after Two Clouds was found, the head chief did something also very interesting. He sent a letter to the medical examiner offering possible ways Two Clouds could have died: drowning due to possibly not knowing how to swim, a heart attack, the dangerous guy that S1 seems not too worried about, and the rich white neighbors who live around the property's perimeter. In the letter, he outright lied, saying that I was on board with him asking for a full forensic assessment and report, even though we had not even communicated at all. And it was actually against Two Clouds' and my beliefs as Muslims to have a full forensic assessment done. He asked that the results be sent to him directly also. We firstly want to know why he thought he needed to send a letter to the medical examiner whose sole purpose is to use science to find cause of death for themselves. And why, if he had concerns about other causes of death, did he not send that information to the police? Why was he so concerned about forensic evidence that he would lie saying that he had my consent, but also that he wanted the results to be sent to him instead of me? If he was naming other concerning possibilities, why did he not mention drunkenness, as he did to my friend who had called him just the day before? Or his relative, who had stolen tens of thousands of dollars worth of cigarettes that Two was being held accountable for. And he, Two Clouds, was furious with him, the head chief, and the council for not following their own constitution and passing judgment onto his relative. Why did he not, in good faith, confide that he and Two Clouds had been locked in heated battle for months upon months, to the point that Two, along with much of the tribe, had begun accusing him of laundering massive amounts of money? And in fact, at the time of Two's death, it was rumored that he believed he had enough evidence to prove his belief. If there was no validity to any of that, wouldn't it be better to just put it all out on the table if he was going to be offering other avenues where the medical examiner should be concerned in looking? What we want to know more than anything is why the head chief, clan chiefs, and tribal council have not demanded to see the Polo Club's camera footage from at least July 3rd to July 6th, 2022, and why they have not demanded a police investigation into Two Clouds' death, if only to quell the suspicions of his family and some tribal members. Why do they not speak of Two Clouds at all? The only person who gave their descendants any real assets for generations to come. Why does the head chief not help to get justice for the only person, which he has said to me himself many times in the past, the only person who helped him fight for and successfully secure the sacred religious land that under his own watch was about to be snatched away. Two Clouds and his activism literally put the head chief and his tribe on the map, made them appear humane to outsiders and articulate. But what have any of them, given Two Clouds in return? We want to know. As I've said, these are just a handful of questions we have that need to be answered. There are many, many others, like why was S1 noticed by several attendants at the funeral, limping and with cuts on his arms? At the cemetery and ceremony afterwards, why was he lying to everyone who would listen that he was the new war chief, which was Two Clouds' title, and that he was the new man in charge? Or why was he staring in a gaze out onto the water during the ceremony when mourners were honoring Two Clouds? The same place where we now know everything that happened to him took place. Why did he apologize to Two Clouds' brother at the ceremony? And also, why did he give away many of Two Clouds' belongings up at Akwesasne instead of returning them to his family? Not to mention S2 and S3, the rest of the trio that hung onto Two Clouds' coattail, who were also participating in their own shiesty business, like lying that they were in contact with Two Clouds when we know that he was already dead, breaking into his car after the funeral, that would be S2, and also S2 being unfazed when she heard about his death, even though she was also with Two Clouds and S1 up in Massachusetts, supposedly trying to garner support against that same threatening man. Although what I am giving here is a very small amount of what we know and questions that we have, we believe it is more than enough to cause all of you to also question, if not conclude exactly what we have concluded, that Two Clouds did not die by accidental drowning. We believe that he was plotted against and murdered by other Indigenous people who pretended to be his family and comrades. And for more than a year and a half, others of their ilk have been willfully covering up what happened to Two. One question we believe we can answer ourselves is the why. This is an easy one, as old as time itself. Envy, jealousy, land, money, and power. There were people surrounding Two Clouds who pretended to be for him, but they were really only for themselves. They ate with him, slept near him, sat at his feet while he attempted to teach them why they should love themselves and why they should love their ancestors and their people. Intentionally and unintentionally, disingenuous folks claimed to be his brother, cousin, uncle, and friend, attaching themselves as leeches do, hoping to suck from his core the gifts of leadership which Creator gave to him. Two Clouds lived authentically, embodying the 7 sacred laws, which encourage all to lead with love, respect, courage, honesty, wisdom, humility, and truth. We think that his murderers believed that by murdering him, they would be free to disobey the sacred. But freedom is not for the wicked. We are going to see that all of those involved, the plotters, the executors, and those who knowingly hide the truth of this gross evil that took away the only person who truly loved them and proved it, that they are locked away for as long as possible, hopefully for the rest of their lives. And we are certain that Creator will hear our prayers and grant us what it is that we ask for Him to do for us. Aho, Amin, Ashe.